I will go ahead and call the meeting of the April 16th, 2026 TRPA Hearings Officer to order. It is 2 p.m. My name is Marcia Birch, and I'll be serving as the hearings officer today. The first item on our agenda is approval of the agenda. We have 2 public hearing items. Have there been any changes?
There have been no changes to the agenda.
All right, then I will go ahead and approve the agenda as it was posted. Item 3 is public interest comments for no action. Any member of the public who wishes to address the hearings officer on any item that is not listed as a public hearing item on the agenda may do so at this time. Public comments on any public hearing item will be taken at the time that item is heard. The hearings officer is prohibited by law from taking immediate action on or discussing issues raised by the public that are not listed on the agenda. So, Jessica, do we have any members of the public in the room?
We do. So I will ask them first.
Okay.
Members of the public wish to address the hearings officer. Now's the time. Please raise your hand and we'll call on you one by one. And this is for just general public interest comments, not for the items on the agenda. Okay, there's no hands raised in the room. Any members of the public online wishing to address the hearings officer? Oh, we have a hand raised. Oh, please come up to the podium. Thank you. Thank you for alerting me.
Sorry. I'm not sure if this is the, my friend wrote a letter and I just wanted to.
Is this for one of the items?
It's one of the later items. It's not one of the specific items. It's in the later part. I just wanted to emphasize that.
Okay.
But it's eventually in there. I don't know. It's in the public.
Tahoe Cedars project?
The public,
So
are you addressing the public comments that have been
You'll have a
written?
chance to comment on that after that item is heard. You'll have a chance to comment on that at the
I
end
just
of
didn't know
the-
because it's not an agenda item, it's a later. Thank you for the clarity.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so we clarified that in the room. I'm gonna go online here. So any member of the public online wishing to address the hearings officer on items that are not on the agenda, now is your time. Please raise your hand and I will call on you one by one. Richard Landgraf, please go ahead and make your comment. And just to clarify, this is for items not on the agenda.
Yeah, thank you. And I just apologize if I'm asking the same questions, a little hard to see. Will the project at Highway 89 and Pine Street in Tahoma, I think that's on the agenda, but I may be misreading it. So if you could clarify, if it's on the agenda, I'll speak at that point. If not, I can speak now.
That is on the agenda. It's item 5B. So that'll be the second hearing item heard today.
Got it. Okay. Thank you very much for the confirmation. Appreciate it.
Thank you. So Marcia, there are no other hands raised to comment.
Okay, then I will go ahead and close the public interest comments. Item 4 is announcement of appeal rights. Any decision of the hearings officer is appealable to the TRPA governing board. The notice of appeal, which can be found on TRPA's website, and associated fees must be filed within 21 days of the hearings officer's decision. All right, that brings us to our public hearing items. And we will start with item 5A, which is the Jordan Land Capability Challenge, 6025 North Lake Boulevard, Placer County, California. Assessor's parcel number 117-010-006. TRPA file number LCAP 2025-0331. And this is Julie Roll's item.
Yes, hi, this is Julie Roll with TRPA. And as Marcia said, this is a land capability challenge. It was reviewed on behalf of TRPA by our soils contractor, Phil Scholes. The property is quite large. I don't remember the exact size, but I think it's about over 10 acres. So I just want to clarify that this land capability challenge is really just for a portion of the project. They created a project area which encompasses the existing house and some of the existing development. So we looked at kind of the center portion of the property for this challenge. And the results were quite complicated. So I'm hoping we have Phil Scholes with us to provide a summary, but The TRPA recommendation is to change this portion of the property from the mapped class 1C to classes 2, 4, and 6. So we're gonna see if Phil is with us online or not.
Check to see if he logged on. It's not.
Okay, we do not have Phil. I did not prepare a summary, so I guess Marcia, if you have questions, maybe we can address it that way.
I have a suggestion. Why don't I trail this one? We'll go on to item 5B and we'll see if Phil joins us. I did review this staff report, and I did not have questions, but maybe we'll go ahead and do that. Do you mind if we just postpone this one to be second?
I don't mind. Do we have someone from the applicant online for this one?
Who would that be? I don't,
Julie Souls, maybe? No. Okay, yeah, Marcia, I think that's fine. Let's come back to.
We'll just postpone this one, and I'll go to the next hearing item, and then we'll see if Phil is able to join us. Okay, so we will skip over 5A and return to it shortly, and we will move on to item 5B, which is Linear Public Service, Tahoe Cedars Water System Reconstruction Project, Phase 1, Tahoma, El Dorado County, and Placer County, California. Assessors parcel number 014-304-006, TRPA file number ERSP 2025-1682. Okay, and this is also Julie's item.
Hi, Julie Roll again. So the project being heard today is the Tahoe Cedars Water System Reconstruction Phase 1. And this was first brought to the hearings officer meeting back on March 5th. And it was continued at that time with kind of the instructions to look more closely at some of the staging yards, which was a concern at that original hearing. So we have done that. And I have the applicant team with me today from TCPUD and the contractor. So I'm actually going to turn it over to Sarah Husong Johnson from TCPUD. And she's going to kind of give us a little bit of a project overview, and then I also have Julie Ryan here to give us some more of the project details, and then I'm here to answer any questions as well as they come up.
Okay, thank you.
Sarah and Julie, I have the plans up that you all sent. Just let me know if you need to go to a different.
Did you want to leave it on the sheet to start?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Okay, this is the project overview sheet.
Okay, good afternoon. Sarah Husong Johnson, Director of Engineering for the Tahoe City Public Utility District. As the district engineer and the project applicant, I'd like to provide a bit of background on the Tahoe Cedars Water System Reconstruction Project in consideration of our application. The project is a multi-year full water system replacement project. It is anticipated to be constructed over 4 phases. The Tahoe Cedars water system was constructed in the 1940s. The district acquired the water system from a private owner in 2018. We knew that the infrastructure was well beyond its useful life and would require significant financial investment. We completed a water system master plan, which determined that the system is actively failing and is severely deficient from a fire suppression standpoint and requires full replacement. Full replacement of the Tahoe Cedars water system represents the single largest capital project that the district has ever undertaken. It includes replacement of 15 miles of undersized and failing water line, installation of 144 new fire hydrants, and installation of 1,200 residential water meters. The project application before you today is only for the first phase of construction. This is planned for this summer 2026. Since the March 5th hearings officer meeting, the district has elected to reduce the scope of the phase 1 project to expedite construction. We have chosen to defer approximately 2,000 feet of water line that would connect the Elm Street well to the upper water tank, as well as defer our consideration of a construction staging area at the upper water tank site. This change will give the district additional time to evaluate this water line alignment and to address community concerns regarding the tank site staging area. However, I do want to note that the water line to the tank is a critical pipe segment that provides significant benefit for water flow to the streets it will connect and the entire neighborhood. It will be included in a future phase of the project. Finally, I'd like to emphasize that we have heard and take seriously the community concerns regarding protecting critical habitat in the environment. I personally signed this application on behalf of the district and have worked hand in hand with TRPA and other regulatory agencies in the basin to build public infrastructure for over 20 years. The district has a strong track record of environmental excellence, and the Tahoe Cedars project will be no different. We value our partner agencies and are committed to ensuring that every aspect of the project will comply with all laws, environmental regulations, and permit conditions. I am confident that we have assembled a team of district staff, consultants, and contractors that understand the laws and are committed to following them. Thank you for your time and consideration. I'll turn it over to my colleague Julie to review the pertinent details of the application.
Thank you, Sarah. My name is Julie Ryan. I'm a member of the district staff and I am the assigned project manager for the Tahoe Cedars project. In preparation for today, I have reviewed 14 written public comments that have been submitted to TRPA over the last 6 weeks, and I've helped the team prepare responses to those comments, which we have included in supplemental information that was provided to TRPA in advance of today. The written comments fall into 2 primary areas of concern. We've seen concerns over the impacts of relocating the water mains out of the backyards and into the right of way, and concerns over staging, primarily focused on the initial proposal to use the tank site property that the district owns that's above Antelope Way as a staging yard when we're working in the vicinity of that location. As Sarah mentioned, we have removed the tank line and our proposal to use the tank site for staging from phase 1. So while we have provided to TRPA responses to the comments about the potential impacts for our use of that particular location, it is no longer part of our application for phase 1. As detailed in the supplemental information that we do intend to continue to assess the various potential impacts on sensitive species, on site stability, and so on, before returning with any future application that includes the use of this particular property for staging. When we were before you in March, we heard an interest from TRPA to develop more specific details about how staging areas would be used in general for the project. So for phase 1, we have focused on 2 locations that we consider to be the most sensitive of the more than 30 locations that we are pursuing for use in this phase. And maybe it'd be helpful to put the overall staging map on the screen, which I think is the next second one. Yeah. Find the little button. There we go. Okay. So yeah, on this sheet, we've got over 30 locations that are in consideration for use during phase 1. The 2 locations that we have focused on are our proposed locations at Sugar Pine Point State Park, as well as a location at the intersection of Pine and Gray on the west side of the project area. We have developed detailed staging plans for both those neighborhoods. I want to note that these 2 of these 2 that we have focused on, only the staging area at Sugar Pine Point State Park does the district intend to do any soils processing. That location in the heart of the neighborhood over at Pine and Gray on the west side, there are houses all around, and we have decided that that would not be a suitable location for any sort of soils processing. As for impacts of relocating the mains from the backyards to the street,
They have been considered and assessed throughout the district's master planning and environmental documentation process. The impacts of not only the water distribution system, but also of the work required to relocate services on the private parcels to connect to the new system have both been considered. It is the current standard of industry for water mains to be located in the roadway where they can easily be accessed by maintenance and firefighting teams. And also replacing them in their current backyard locations would be more costly. It would be highly impactful to replace them in the current location, because we would likely be required to clear a 20-foot wide swath of through people's backyards in order to install the new lines. And it would likely delay the project for years while we secured rights of entry to those properties. I'm gonna go ahead and end with that. But if you have any other questions about the specifics of the project, we have two members of our project team joining us today. We've got Greg Lyman with the designer Dowell and John O'Day with the builder Granite here to help me answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you very much. So I don't have questions right at this point. So what I think I would like to do is open this up to public comment. And then I may have some questions after that.
Okay, so any member of the public in the room here with us wishing to comment, please raise your hand and I'll call on you one by one. This is your chance. Read your letter.
Oh, my friend sent the letter and I wasn't sure if it was going to be read.
Perfect. So if it was sent in, then
Yeah.
The hearings officer has read it. The
Oh, it
planner
didn't
has
get
read
read
it.
last time.
Well, we don't read them
We
out
don't-
loud.
oh,
The hearings officer reads it, like she gets a packet with all of the
Oh,
letters
okay.
in them. So that's because there's so many that would be
For
just a lot to
sure.
read.
And they're all posted online.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for anyone-
but online, I just
Yep.
wanted to make sure that it was.
Yep.
Oh, and emphasize.
Everything that-
We had a good point.
Everything that's posted online, the hearings officer has read.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, is there anybody else in the room wishing to comment? Seeing no hands, I'll go online and there are 3 hands raised online, but I'm gonna make the announcement again. So anybody wishing to comment online, please raise your hand now by clicking on the raised hand button at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and I will call on you all one by one. Okay, the first hand raised is Richard Landgraf. Richard Landgraf, please go ahead and unmute yourself to make your comment.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes, we can.
Yes.
Yeah, Marcia, first of all, thank you so much for hosting this meeting. I was able to speak at the March 5th meeting, and again, I did not, unfortunately, thank you at that point either. So thank you for hosting that meeting. I appreciate your management of the engagement here. Couple questions then for the PUD. If I taking my notes and listening to the description, the Tahoe Cities project, the acquisition was done in 2018. At the time, it was known that the system was beyond its financial or life, and it was in a depleted state. And then the second piece is full replacement is required for the objective of fire suppression. So I just want to make sure I've got those particular items clear in my notes. I can continue on and then let the PUD respond. Can I also have a status of what easements, the easement status are for the particular tank area? As I understood it to be easements for the water line that was supposed to be taken from the tanks down further was either not obtained or not obtainable, and another route is being considered. I know that's not part of phase 1 at this point, but if you could comment on that, I would appreciate that. What element of the project itself is it? So the third question is um, for fire suppression, because that seemed like an important point that was made a couple times before. Um, what part of the project overall is done for maintenance avoidance? I think Mr. Barkley made a comment regarding 50% of the PUD's budget is being allocated to maintaining or repairing a section down by 89. So if you could comment on that, I would appreciate that. What hydraulic inner ties have been made thus far, and what are being planned to be made with the remaining PUD system, either in phase one or subsequent phases? And if those are inner ties are required for water pressure stability of the system, capacity, fire suppression, et cetera, if you could comment on those. And then finally, I guess I'd like to make sure it's clear, it seems to get lost in some of the information. None of the residents that I'm aware of, I don't see anybody out there with jackhammers and such, are personally responsible for the wearing out, I guess, of the Tahoe Cedars water system. Is that correct? It's just kind of failed on its own. We don't have any heavy equipment up there crushing the lines or anything like that. So if you could comment on that as well, I would appreciate it. Um, Thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Landgraf. I'm going to go ahead and respond myself briefly. So I did take notes of the various questions that you have. Each of these items is outside of TRPA's regulatory authority. These are questions about district budgeting and maintenance of the system, et cetera. These are subject to state and local law. TRPA, at this point, we're not looking at future phases because they have not been proposed. Today, we're looking at phase one that has been proposed and is going to be the subject of an approval or a denial today. As far as determinations regarding replacement rates, those sorts of things, those are governed by California law and local laws that relate to the district. I do think that these questions are questions that the representatives of the district could engage with you on, and I'm sure that they would be willing to do that in a process outside of the hearings officer meeting on this particular project that's been proposed. So I'll go ahead and go on to any additional public comment.
Okay, the next.
Thanks for clarifying, Marcia. I appreciate that. This is Rick. Thank you.
Welcome. All right.
The next hand raised is Nancy's iPad. Nancy, please unmute yourself to make your comment.
I'm getting a text from the team, and they're having a little hard time with the audio button. If you could just give us just a moment.
Okay, maybe I'll come back to Nancy and I'll go to the next commenter. So Nancy, sit tight. I'll come back to you. Michael Levin, if you go ahead and unmute yourself, you can make your comment.
Okay, am I unmuted?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. First, I know Pam Washburn is trying to raise her hand and is unable to be recognized for that. So if Julie Roll could note that. I would like to speak to a couple things today. Number one, in reviewing the current application for phase one, this revised application, there's a continuing inconsistency. The CEQA application stated there'd be 160,000 square feet of disturbance for 15 miles of pipe. And now this current application that you're looking to approve today is stating there's 128,000 square feet of disturbance for 15,300 linear feet or less than 3 miles. And that I think I pointed out that 160,000 square feet did not contain the 2 acre staging site that they wanted to put up by the water tanks. And so there's a continuing discrepancy, which is unexplained by these engineers as to why they can't get this number to a believable number. The second thing I noted is that typed in the current TRPA application, which I can not find at this point on your website, is that TCPUD will continue to monitor the goshawk's nest. And I want to point out and would hope to have TRPA's support and stern warning to these organizations that have a long list of environmental violations, especially Granite, that TCPUD and I doubt Granite have any biologists on the staff, as do TRPA, the Forest Service, and the Conservancy. They have no right to commercially access this protected public property, and they need to be told as a condition of phase one that they should not be going on to CTC property for any purposes. So the neighborhood has observed them up there trampling across areas that they don't have an easement to, off the road that they do have an easement on, for these commercial purposes. And as I stated in my letter, giving them the location of the goshawk nest or any right to see it or monitor it is giving the foxes the keys to the hen house. And we just have to keep in mind that these organizations have a long list of environmental violations, and that we cannot trust them to protect the goshawks, despite TCPUD's words that they took this situation seriously. I will tell you, they did not take it seriously, despite what Sean Barkley, their general manager, and the woman you heard talk today say. They knew about this last July, and they were informed of it by the community, and they didn't do anything. They proceeded along with their plans and ignored the goshawk nest. Number three, the permit, it's a little unclear, and maybe somebody could explain this to me. The permit states that, quote, additional staging areas must be approved by the TRPA compliance officer or inspector prior to use. And I'm not sure what that means, but I would hope that it doesn't mean that only the TRPA compliance inspector will be the one to authorize additional staging areas, because this looks like a backdoor for them to again try and put in their illegal staging area up by the tank sites. It should state in this current phase that no additional staging sites will be approved, period. It also, my fourth point I'd like to make is that TRPA currently has enough evidence to put an end to TCPUD's quest for this water tank staging area. I mean, we've spent the last 8 or 9 months on this, the last 2 months with TRPA. There's reason after reason that this should be denied. In addition, TCPUD has continued to withhold information from the TRPA. Specifically, there's a cultural and paleontological findings report, and those identified cultural resources in the area which were left out of the TRPA application, and also the locations of the hiking trails which were left out of the application. And it's, again, part of their long pattern of falsification of applications and omission of critical material. And they'll do this again. I think it's clear to everybody that they are not trustworthy. It's a cultural pattern in their organization It stems from the top down of falsifying these applications and hiring organizations with environmental violations to prepare these applications for them. And it appears they're just incapable of telling the truth or providing factual information. And what I'd like to see, and I think the community would like to see, is to put an end to this continuing charade once and for all and tell them that they cannot put a staging area up by the water tanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Levin. All
Okay,
right, do we have,
There is one more. Nancy's still got her hand raised. I'm gonna see if the name is Nancy's iPad. So Nancy, please try to unmute yourself.
Okay, I think I'm there.
Yes,
Yes.
Okay. So, first of all, I want to say that I think that everyone in the Tahoe Cedars area appreciates the need to have the water system replaced and appreciates that we will have better service, appreciates that it's going to be placed in the streets and not the backyards. I don't think that's being contested, or at least not to my knowledge, is it being contested. And I do appreciate that with some outpouring from the community, that phase one was limited and that the tank staging site has gotten a reprieve. My question is, given the fact that we know that it is a breeding area for an endangered species, given the fact that it is in an undeveloped area, and we know that it will result in degradation of the environment that could be, not even, that could be permanent, that we know that it's in an area where, it's a little ironic. We want water for the fire hydrants, but we're going to store fuel and hydraulic equipment and equipment that could spark in an area that has no hydrants, has no way to support or to suppress fire. So we have the birds, the degradation of the environment, fire danger, and that this truly is a recreational gateway for the Tahoe area, for the McKinney-Rubicon area. People from all over do enter this area as a gateway to go to Sugar Pine and to the national forest. So I don't understand why this is continuing to be considered in subsequent phases, especially when PUD states that there are 30 plus other options that are in safer areas for the environment and for the community. So what I wanted to do in speaking today is to really urge TRPA and to urge PUD to make a definitive decision to protect this area for the wildlife, for the community, and for the goodwill of the community. I think that you're hearing some voices in the community. People are concerned, and Lake Tahoe has a reputation. It stands for environmentalism. It stands for caring about the environment. We all want to keep the lake clear and blue. We're all sad when it's smoky and we can't see across. Why would we intentionally degrade a natural area when there are options? And I just wanted to speak today to really encourage all of you to take this off the table once and for all. And in the name of goodwill for the community and the environment as a whole. So thank you.
Thank you.
There's one more hand raised. Monica
Okay.
Evans, please unmute yourself. Make your comment.
Marcia, did you call me? This is Richard Landgraf. I received a text from Pam to be read. She's unfortunate, not able to connect into her audio.
Okay, and so you're going to read a comment on behalf of someone else?
Yeah, Pam Washburn.
Okay, is that the person, Jessica, that you were trying to
No,
connect
I was
with?
trying to unmute Monica Evans, and it
Okay.
looks like she just got herself unmuted.
What let's let Monica finish, and then if I have some time, I can read Pam's statement. Thank you.
That would be fine. Thank you.
Um, Mine is just very quick. Again, thank you for hearing us today. And I just wanted to second and third what I've already heard. I'm very uncomfortable with these companies that have a history of environmental violations. I'm also uncomfortable with the discrepancies that were mentioned by the second commenter, that we can't get the full scope of what's really happening with a number that matches. So I want to know what is coming, like what to realistically expect. And I agree with the other speakers who are saying it doesn't make any sense to even consider disrupting the natural environment, especially of the protected species. So I just want to make sure that my voice is also heard, that I have the same concerns, especially about people who are violating environmental procedures. And I hope that that will all be taken care of. So thank you.
Thank you.
Richard, I think you can go ahead and read Pam's comment.
Thank you for the opportunity. So Pam writes, she says, first of all, thank you, TRPA, to allow us to question and discuss the PUD's efforts here and about their work in the proposed sensitive areas in the forest area, specifically in consideration of the water tank staging area, given, as others have mentioned, the environmental sensitivity and impact of construction material, fuel supplies, et cetera, when there's ample other alternatives. Pam brings up specifically the goshawk nest, as another speaker, Mike Levin, did, as well as then the trails that the entire public and visitors enjoy, which would all be out of commission during this phase of construction, which clearly is unnecessary, given that there are 30 other alternative sites. Thank you.
Thank you.
So there are no other hands raised to comment.
Okay, thank you. All right, so thank you to everyone for your comments. I do have some questions and just some things that I would like to clarify. With respect to this concern that, I mean, I understand that there was a CEQA document that was prepared. There have been some questions today about the amount of disturbance. I know in the staff report and the materials that I have reviewed, it's an estimated 128,000 square feet of disturbance. And I just would like to see if either Julie or representatives of the district could just confirm that for me and clarify.
Yeah, I don't know the details of the numbers that are included in the CEQA documentation offhand. But I think it's worth following up. You know, that there could be some difference in how those numbers were being calculated and what was included in the definition of disturbance between the original CEQA document and the application that we filed. So I'll dig into that a little bit.
But for the purposes of the current application, we are very comfortable with the numbers that are in the phase one application being considered by TRPA today.
And Marcia, I know the disturbance did change from the first time we were at the hearing. They did adjust the numbers based on the reduction in the project area. So that was taken into consideration.
Okay, and that's what I noted in the staff report. Okay, so that is clarified. As far as so I've heard a number of comments today regarding the goshawk nest and its location. It is my understanding in reviewing the revised materials that that area is not part of phase one, and that area will not be impacted. But I would just like, again, some additional clarification from staff or the applicant.
Yes, Marcia, that's correct. It is taken out of this first phase. And as Sarah pointed out, I mean, there is some work that's going to be in the future phases within that buffer zone, regardless of the staging area, taking that out of consideration even. If you look at the buffer, and I think it was on the
Yeah,
last site plan.
Go back to the first sheet in the figures that we.
It kind of like, it goes over, a portion of that, like the street and the houses over there. So a number of, yeah, right there on the bottom, that kind of shaded area. So when they come back and to do, future phases, if, along that road, along the water tank, we're gonna be running into this issue again. So, we've already been looking into potential mitigations and things like that, but at this point, it's off the table. It's not part of this project. So we kind of just put a pause on reviewing that or considering mitigation and whatnot, so.
Okay, thank you. And there was a question about additional staging areas that would be approved by the compliance officer. And my understanding is that that could occur only as to the staging areas that are included in the current proposal.
Yeah, I appreciate the comment, and I can see why that, was a concern. And really, that's a very standard condition we put in our permits, because what happens oftentimes is as contractors are working, they realize that, oh, we need a different space or we need more space or whatever. So that's very common in projects in general. So we do allow additional staging areas to be proposed, but I will make it clear that in this case, obviously, there's a lot of concern over staging areas. This is not going to include the tank site. That's not, like you said, Barsha, it would only be the ones that we've already included. Or if there's something outside of that, we'll consider it, but it would not be including the tank site or anything, within that goshawk disturbance zone.
So I think it's on the next page or the next slide that showed the various potential staging areas. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So go ahead.
I was just gonna say, before construction starts, we have our compliance inspector who will do the pre-grid inspection, and we'll work with the contractor and look at all the staging areas and make sure they're, suitable in the sense that they have all the appropriate erosion control, sediment control, tree protection, and all that. So, we do continuously look at those throughout the project and inspect them.
Okay, and any staging areas for this project would be one or more of the staging areas that are potential staging areas that are identified here.
Yes, and just to further clarify what you're seeing on this map, the sites that are in color and are hatched, those are the only ones that we have some sort of verification that they are actually available for our use in phase one. The ones that are identified that are sort of grayed out, those are ones that we're still pursuing, but we've had no confirmation that we can use them. When you add up all the individual little locations that we've identified, that's where we're getting that number of 30. So that the 30 count includes a number of properties that we don't have any confirmation of yet. And then I just also want to point out, a lot of these are very small. They are embedded in the neighborhood, and they will only be suitable for very limited purposes as we move through the project area. So, this idea of, we have 30 locations to choose from, we do not intend to utilize 30 locations at once, nor for every activity. We will be very select, because we really do want to minimize our footprint, minimize our impact, as we move through the neighborhood.
And Marsha, I will add, just from a TRPA perspective, we agree with that. We prefer to keep staging areas to the minimum needed, especially on these projects that are linear, like over a large project area. The less staging areas used, the less restoration that has to be done in the end, the less impacts to neighbors. So we very specifically do not want contractors spreading out and staging all over the place. I mean, that's pretty standard. And we also are not allowing contractors just in general on projects to come in and find like a forested lot and cut down a bunch of trees to make a staging yard. We're looking for yards that are previously disturbed or already paved, maybe a disturbed road shoulder or something that it makes sense to use. And we're not disturbing, like native soil and things like that as much as possible.
Okay, so just to clarify again, I would like the condition, and I recognize that what it says is that the compliance officer will review additional staging areas. I just want it to be clear that it will be one or more of these that have been identified in the proposed project.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. And I do want to speak to, I appreciate the neighbors coming out and their concern for the tank site and the goshawk habitat. And what I will say is this, I heard a few comments saying, we'd like this settled once and for all. The TRPA hearings officer what's before me today is a project that's being proposed that doesn't include that site and that area. And I can't, reach beyond what is before me and make decisions about, the future use of that property. So I just want to tell you that I have heard your concerns. I am thankful that there was a revision to this project so that those things can be looked at more closely. But that is not before me today, the use of that particular site. Okay, there was a comment about cultural resources. I did read through the environmental analysis, but I just would like to have staff or the applicant respond regarding cultural resources.
I was just gonna try to pull that up. I do not.
Okay.
Recall offhand where the cultural resources, if that was on the tank site. I mean, most of the work we're having proposed in the site is within the roadways and, private yards really. So I'm assuming that is more often the tank site or often the wilderness areas, adjacent to the project area.
Yes, I did not find that information for the work that's being done in the roadways and in the yards.
And we do, and I have to look back at my permit, maybe it's not included, but typically the protocol is if, a cultural resource is discovered while they're digging down in the road, then they're gonna stop work and contact TRPA and contact the appropriate agencies. So if not added in the permit, I can add that in.
Yes, thank you, Julie. If you could include that in the permit if it's not there already. Okay, so I think that that answers all of my questions. And again, I'm thankful to everyone who attended today and provided comments. Thank you to the applicant for making the changes and addressing these things and taking all of this seriously. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing on this item and take action. Sorry, I just need to pull it up. I will approve the findings in attachment A contained in the staff summary, including a finding of no significant environmental effect. I'll approve the project based on the staff summary and the record evidence subject to the conditions as they have been amended here today contained in the draft TRPA permit. Okay, well, we can go back to item 5B now.
Oh, he said he was on, but he
wait,
needs to be promoted to speaker, so we do have Phil.
I see it. I do see it.
Okay.
Here we go.
And Phil, since you weren't on, I did introduce the item, but mentioned that it was a bit complicated, so I'll have you give a summary when we have you pulled up here.
Okay, Phil, you should be able to unmute yourself.
You may have,
Hi, this is Phil Scholes. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. I'm speaking from a vehicle here, so I apologize for if the audio is not very good. So is this should I just jump into this, Julie?
Yes, please. I kind of gave a little summary, but yeah, let you get into
Okay.
more details, please.
Yeah, okay. I'm sorry about the not being present earlier. This is a land capability challenge for a fairly unusual property. It was historically mined for aggregate or rock, and all of that occurred prior to the inception of TRPA. And so when it comes to a land capability challenge, we generally have looked at stuff in their historical condition. However, because this mining operation ended prior to 1969 or 1972, whichever year we need to use, it doesn't really matter for our situation. It got backfilled and reclaimed in such a way that it now is a vegetated surface. It's not like the natural ground per se, but it's a very rocky soil, but it does support a fairly dense shrub layer across the ground. It has grass and forbs, and it's got scattered trees across it. It's not dissimilar than other rocky soils that we might see. That would be sort of like the Jorge Tacoma soils, or it might be rocky like the Waka series. And so 6 pits were dug from just below the residence, sort of in the northern upper part of the property, down towards an entrance driveway. And sort of a side note here, which is that the study area was a portion of the property that had previously been mapped as 1C, and it's also on the soil survey SM for stony colluvial land. And so the lowest part of the property that extends all the way down to the North Lake Boulevard is class 6 and class 4, depending on the slope. That area didn't need to be challenged. So we're just doing a portion of the property. And then the northernmost part of the property is extremely steep. And there's no point in doing a challenge on stuff that is over 30% slope. So they sort of picked an area that has an existing residence, is part of the old reclaimed land from the quarry, and part of the entrance driveway. So the 6 pits were dug from pretty much the upper elevation below where the house is located, down the hillside, and then the last pit was dug sort of in the area that was mapped class 6 for the entrance area along sort of the southern tier of the property. What we found were soils that were quite varied, which is not unusual for an area that gets backfilled. But what was interesting to find, in terms of land capability, is that while it was a lot of rocky soils, there was a lot of interstitial space between the rocks that was filled with soil materials. So there was opportunity for trees and shrubs to send roots down several feet. And in some of our pits, we could see that, 6 feet down, there was still, or not 6 feet, but 5 feet down, there was still fine roots showing up. So it shows that over the last 60 years or so that this has been reclaimed property, that it's functioning very much like a high capability, soil type. Now, of course, we wouldn't expect the soils that were backfilled and regraded to match one of the soil series in the 1974 soil survey. But there is an option under the land capability challenge process where, we have unnamed soils. So this is one of those kind of situations where, we were identifying soils that, while they were similar, they were also sufficiently dissimilar that they don't reflect a soil that's been forming in place for thousands of years. So ultimately, what we were doing with the land capability challenge is, one, we were validating that we were observing high capability conditions, like the plants being able to grow fairly deep into the soil, that there was enough soil material, it wasn't too rocky, and that slopes that were 0 to 16%, fall under class 6 under the unnamed soil types clause that we use under the Bailey report, and that slopes that were 16 to 30% slopes qualify as class 4. Anything over 30% is class 2.
Okay, I see that there. Thank you, Phil. This was so helpful. This was a complicated one.
It was, and I'm trying not to like keep on going on and on with discussion here because I don't want to sort of overshoot the target here of what's necessary. But I'm totally encouraging any kind of questions to sort of narrow down any kind of particular concerns that the hearing officer or staff might have regarding what is really one of the more unusual land capability challenges.
Yes, well, I don't have any additional questions. Some of the things that I was wondering about, you covered just a moment ago. And it was very helpful to hear that explanation. Julie, I don't know if you have any thing that you would like to bring up.
No, I think he summed it up pretty good there.
I'm glad you were able to make it, Phil. Okay,
Yeah.
did we receive any public comments on this?
We did not.
Did not.
Okay, so let's go ahead and open this up for public comment now.
Okay, so there's no more members of the public in the room, so I'll go online. Any member of the public wishing to comment on this item, please raise your hand now by clicking on the raised hand button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We do have one hand raised. Richard Landgraf, I'm not sure if you actually wanted to comment on this item.
Not on this particular item, but I wanted to clarify something since it came up at the end of the last topic, and that was regarding the 30 different staging areas. Just for clarity, that number was provided to the community on April 2nd by PUD Director Sean Barkley, saying that there was more than 30 staging areas under consideration. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware where that came from. Thank you.
Alrighty, thank you. All right, let's go and see if there are any comments regarding item 5A.
Okay, any member of the public wishing to comment on item 5A, please raise your hand now and by clicking on the raised hand button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. There are no hands raised to comment.
Okay, well then I will go ahead and close public comment on this item and take action. I will approve the proposed land capability challenge as it was presented in the staff report. All right, thank you, everyone. I will adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
Thanks, Martha.
Thank you.